round of applause. Sir, please. Professor Vaidyanath Lal, Professor Vijay Kumar Jain, please be on stage, sir. First, we have Professor V. Murugan, who will be addressing the gathering. Just a second. Let me introduce you, Professor Panda, to the August gathering. Professor Basant Kumar Panda is the project director of the Center of Excellence for Studies in Classical Odia at CIL. He has previously served as Gopabandhu Research Chair Professor at CISS Deemed University Bhubaneswar and as Professor of Odia Language at the Regional Institute of Education, NCERT. Professor Panda holds an MA and PhD in Odia from Vishwabharati Shanti Niketan and has extensive research and teaching experience since 1979. He has led significant projects like the Microscope, CIL Unicode Indian Language Project and the impact study of learning to read under SSA Government of Odisha. His publications include 14 books, over 80 research papers and numerous articles and paper presented at national and international seminars. He has been a member of several prestigious committees, including the high-powered Committee for Indian Knowledge System, that's IKS, from the Government of India, the Odia Advisory Board of Bharatiya Jnanapeeth and the National Focus Group on Language Education, NCERT. Professor Panda has also contributed to the preparation of the report for the classical status of Odia language and has been involved in various advisory and selection committees related to language and literature awards. We welcome you, sir. We now have Professor V. Murugan, who will be addressing the gathering with his talk. A small introduction on Professor Murugan. Professor Murugan, a former professor of English, holds a D.Litt degree in lexicography and translation and a PhD in comparative literature. He has edited 3 English-Tamil bilingual dictionaries for different levels for the Oxford University Press, a Tamil-English dictionary of literary and critical terms in Tamil, and a Tamil-Tamil English dictionary, a 3-time Best Translator Award winner. His translations include Tolkappiyam in English, Narinal in English, Kali Tokai in English, Paripatal in English, and Tirukkural in English, besides several folk ballads, Kulothungan's epic poem, Manuda Yattirai, and selected poems of Bharatiyar and Bharati Dasan. He has co-edited the 12-volume Kalaignar Karunanidhi in English translation for the Bharatiyar University, edited Tolkappiyam and Narinal English translation, compendiums of the Central Institute of Classical Tamil, and the 7-volume Siddha Medicine for the Tamil Academy, Chennai. His many seminar presentations and journal publications are largely on comparative studies of classical Tamil language and literature. His academic visits include the USA, the UK, France, and Mauritius. At present, he has been compiling, along with Professor P. Maruthanayagam, a Tamil-English dictionary for the Oxford University Press. We welcome you, sir. Please address the gathering.
Good morning, scholars. The title of my paper is the Tolkappiyam, the Sui Generis Composite Classical Linguistic Composition in Tamil. This is the title. The Sui Generis Composite Classical Linguistic Composition in Tamil. So it means there are 4 adjectives. I am using 4 adjectives to describe Tolkappiyam. These 4 adjectives are, it is a linguistic composition. Tolkappiyam is a linguistic composition. It is not a grammatical text as many people wrongly conceive of it. It is a linguistic composition. It is a classical linguistic composition. It is a composite classical linguistic composition. It is a sui generis composite classical linguistic composition. In addition to these 4 adjectives, we can add a 5th adjective also, and it is the earliest sui generis composite classical linguistic composition in Tamil, because it is the earliest text written in any of the classical languages of the world. I will read out some of these things. Arguably, Tolkappiyam can be considered the earliest text of linguistics in the combined classical tradition of the world, thanks to the carbon dating of current Keeladi excavations, which fixes a flourishing urban Tamil culture at the 7th century BCE, much earlier than Panini's Ashtadhyayi of the 4th century BCE, and Dionysius Thrax's Technogrammatica of the 2nd century BCE. These dates have been taken from Modern Linguistics, an introduction, page 329, done by S.K. Varma and Krishnaswamy of the Central University of English and Foreign Languages, Hyderabad. Indeed, a vibrant linguistic tradition should have existed before Tolkappiyam in the Tamil land, given the fact that there are as many as 343 internal references in Tolkappiyam to the earlier authorities in Tamil. Again, Tolkappiyam is the most important path-breaking linguistic composition in the classical languages of the world. For it is one text that unambiguously and explicitly draws on both the spoken language and the written language for the description and codification of language structure. On the other hand, in almost all the classical languages of the world, we have only 2 linguistic compositions for the classical languages. One is Panini's Ashtadhyayi written for Sanskrit, and another is Technogrammatica written by Dionysius Thrax for the Greek language. In both these linguistic compositions, they are confined to only the written language. This Ashtadhyayi confines itself only to the Vedic texts and the Upanishads. On the other hand, Tolkappiyam takes not only the written compositions that existed during his time, but also the spoken language of the age, because very consistently throughout the text he talks about the need for taking into account not only the written text but also the spoken languages also. Here is a point. Again, Tolkappiyam is the, yes, I quote a Nurpa from Tolkappiyam. If poetic practice and use in living speech through up forms of expression that go in variant, if there is a difference between what is in the written text and what is being spoken by the people, such forms must be viewed with discernment, Tolkappiyam says. Yes. This is the next subtitle is this is the earliest work in the world's classical literary tradition. Tolkappiyam is the earliest text written in any of the classical languages of the world. We have a very authentic evidence from Sattambedigal's Adibhasha. He says of the 3 grammars, Tamil was the first to come into existence, whereas Prakrit was derived from Tamil and Sanskrit from Prakrit. This is Sattambedigal's Adibhasha. We have as many as 1600 codifications of this kind, defining and informing language structure and language use. which have secured the Tamil language from obsolescence and decline over more than 25 centuries, while every other classical contemporary of Tamil fell into disuse and decay, such as Sanskrit, Greek and Latin. These three languages do not exist in the spoken medium at all. On the other hand, Tamil, in spite of its having been in existence over the last 25 centuries, is still a living language. It is these codifications and postulates and the most imaginative employment by the poetic fraternity of the day that have endowed the Tamil language with a unique character of being both a classical language and a living modern language, writes George L. Hart at the University of California, who is an Indologist well acquainted with many classical and modern languages including Sanskrit and Hindi. He says, I quote, "Among the world languages, Tamil is virtually unique. Among the world languages, Tamil is virtually unique in being little changed over the 20 centuries. Even the connotations of the words that existed in the far-off times still live for the Tamilians." The next subtitle is Tolkappiyam as a linguistic science. This composition in all its three levels of study, namely phonological, grammatical and semantic, is replete with utterances and observations that are pragmatic and empirical. Although it's rooted in an old world environment, Tolkappiyam breathes scientific temperament and scientific spirit through and through. Look at the following statement, propounded at a time when the Egyptians, Greeks and the Aryans had remained steeped in multitudes of myths and superstitions. I quote from Tolkappiyam. A structured blend of earth, fire, water, air and space as the world is. When the world was, the creation of the world was ascribed by the Sumerians, by the Egyptians, by the Aryans and by the Greeks to the work of God, it is Tolkappiyam who says the world, the universe is a structured blend of the earth, fire, water, air and space. As he speaks about one sense, two sense, three sense, four sense, five sense and six sense organisms and exemplifies them from plant and animal kingdoms, he stands out as the man of science on a hilltop. Tolkappiyam, in the last Marabial section of Tolkappiyam, we have Tolkappiyam talking about one sense organisms, two sense organisms, three sense organisms, up to six sense organisms, and he gives lots of examples for these for each of these organisms. And that too at a time when the whole world was steeped in total superstitions. That Tolkappiyam makes constant references to the literate opinion of the day, besides earlier authorities, also shows him seek to build on empirical data rather than on constructed, conjectural and imaginary sources. The following is a description of the articulation of speech sounds in Tamil, eminently extendable to most languages of the world, including the Indo-European. Tolkappiyam gives a detailed description of how the sounds of the language are articulated. He does it for Tamil and it can be applied to any language. In fact, Tolkappiyam's description reads like the modern description of the articulation of speech sounds by Daniel Jones. You can read Daniel Jones' description of the articulation of speech sounds for English and compare it with the Tolkappiyam, and you will see that one is a paraphrase of the other. And Tolkappiyam did it 2500 years ago before Daniel Jones, when no language laboratory existed at that time. Look at what Tolkappiyam says regarding how each sound is produced. The aggressive airstream originating around the diaphragm and worked by the action therein moves through the chest, the throat, the head and reaches the teeth, lips, tongue, nose and palate, gets duly modified within these 8 regions and comes out in forms distinctive. Thus are the phonemes are produced. This is, he does it for the Tamil, describes it for the Tamil language, and you can extend it to any living language. This is true of the production of all the speech sounds in our languages. And he makes a distinction between how consonants are produced and vowels are produced, how the production of vowel sounds differs from the production of consonant sounds. And he says about the vowel sounds, the flow of air unobstructed through the throat region. When you pronounce a vowel sound, the air comes out freely. There is no obstruction. That is the difference between how you pronounce a vowel sound and a consonant sound. These two verses read precisely like Daniel Jones' description for the English language. However, Tolkappiy's much stronger claim as a linguistic science consists in its theorization of the facts of language. Look at the following postulates. I quote, of the phonemes 3 and 30, he talks about Tamil. Of the phonemes 3 and 30, we have 33 phonemes in Tamil. 2 and 20 are wordinitial. And 6 times 4 are word file. He gives a very precise description of which sound comes at the beginning of a word, which sounds ends a word, which sounds cannot come at the end of the word, which sound cannot come at the beginning of. He gives a precise description for all the 33 sounds in Tamil. And he talks about the predicator. What does predicator mean? And this reads like the description of subject, predicator and all those things described in the university English grammar. Look at what predicator does and compare it with what the modern English grammatical texts say. A predicator implies the process, the doer, the object, place, time, instrument, recipient and the effect. These are the 8 that stand pivoting around the predicator. These statements spread over the first 2 books of Tolkappiyam read like scientifically structured objective definitions, methodical, systematic, empirical, analytical, coherent, accessible, retrievable and consensual. Be it further said that these statements are couched in meta-language, reinforcing the claim of this classical Tamil grammar as a linguistic composition per se. And the next is the most important section of my paper and the most important thing we need to know about what Tolkappiyam really consists of. And the 4 branches of Tolkappiyam. Tolkappiyam is outstandingly comprehensive, encyclopedic in conception and treatment of linguistic material, going incomparably far beyond what is available in the other classical traditions of the world, Sanskrit, Greek, Persian and Chinese. That too done at a point of time preceding Homeric Greece and Vedic India. These things I have taken from Wimsatt and Brooks' Literary Criticism, a Short History, and R. Sundarraju, a great scholar in Sanskrit's Rigvedic studies. This linguistic masterpiece Tolkappiyam is clearly divisible into 4 main branches. We haven't looked at Tolkappiyam from this perspective. We need to look at Tolkappiyam from this perspective because this is very important in order to understand Tolkappiyam from the modern linguistic point of view. The linguistic masterpiece Tolkappiyam is clearly divisible into 4 main branches, namely 1. Pure theoretical linguistics, 2. Applied linguistics, 3. Cultural linguistics, 4. Literary linguistics. These are the 4 branches of linguistics into which Tolkappiyam can be divided. We need to look at Tolkappiyam because all these 4 things have lots of material in embedded in Tolkappiyam. These branches, on the other hand, are obviously graded developments of the last 200 years in the other languages of the world. While Tolkappiyam has done it 2500 years ago for Tamil, divided linguistics into these 4 branches, these developments in the other languages of the world are only the developments of the last 200 years. 1. Pure theoretical linguistics. Defined as the scientific study of language and its structure, this branch is spread over 18 chapters in the first 2 books of Tolkappiyam. In holistic terms, here is a profoundly scholarly template of what constitutes a theoretical linguistic study. Compellingly relevant beyond the Tamil context as much as it is to the native student and the scholar. These 2 books encompass graphology and phonology, phonemic distribution, production and articulation of speech sounds, morphophonemic coalitions and compounding, case morphemes and structural morphemes, case grammar, case system and syntax, syntactic ambiguity and variation of case morphemes, word clauses, classification of words into human class words and non-human class words, elliptical utterances and transformational framework, participles, classification of the lexical corpus of Tamil and compound words and their classification. In all of which there is the semantic dimension. In Tolkappiyam, we come across all these branches and aspects and categories of linguistics which are the developments in other languages of the world only during the last 200 years. And Tolkappiyam has done it for the Indian linguistic tradition 2500 years ago. And Tolkappiyam is the first to say that the grammatical categories, the linguistic categories need to be correlated with the meaning. In this blending of grammar and meaning is indicated explicitly by Tolkappiyam, and he says, "Sonmai theridalum, porunmai theridalum, sollin agum." It is a word which gives an indication of not only the form of the word, but also for the meaning. The meaning and the form of the word stand manifest in the word itself. Thus, book 1 and 2 of Tolkappiyam mark a unified structure of phonological, morphological, syntactic and semantic components, making for a totality of linguistic competence. It bears repetition to say that most of the postulates in these two books, as in book 3, go beyond the Tamil context and apply to any human language, be it a synthetic language or an analytical language. The number of parts, yes. The second linguistic branch dealt with in Tolkappiyam is applied linguistics. This is an important thing. It is in Tolkappiyam we come across a large number of insights into how a dictionary, lexicography, into translation, into stylistics, into discourse analysis, into language teaching, into literary study. In all these aspects and for many other more, we come across several insights in Tolkappiyam which are today recognized as the applied linguistic disciplines. In chapter 27 of his magnum opus, Tolkappiyam makes an extremely important distinction between two classes of books, primary books and secondary books. He identifies the latter as comprising abridgment, enlargement, a synthesis of abridgment and enlargement, and translation, and terms them derivatory works, works being based on the primary or the original works. These secondary works, so far as they are works of language in use, go largely by the name applied linguistics. That is why Tolkappiyam speaks about translation, provides meanings of certain classes of words, gives significant insights into language and literature teaching, speaks of several uses of language in literature, etc. A further look into the intrinsic structure of Tolkappiyam reveals that it is a linguistic text of a distinctive kind. It is no mere body of rules of a language. It is in a large measure a study of language in use, language as a vehicle of expression and communication, linguistics in action and interaction. The following verses, for example, may constitute the first principles for a dictionary definition maker. Look at these two small notepads. See how they are complete, not only relevant, but they are essential for a lexicographer to mark out his meaning. இயற்கை பொருளை இற்றென களத்தல். If you want to describe the natural things, you need to describe them by their being. இயற்கை பொருளை இற்றென களத்தல். Describe the natural things by their being. செயற்கை பொருளை ஆக்கமோடு கூறல். The natural, the artificial, the man-made things must be described by their becoming. This is the basic norm, the first principle for a dictionary maker, which we come across in Tolkappiyam, and we cannot ignore this when we make a dictionary for any language, and we come across such insights in Tolkappiyam. This is for the dictionary maker. This verse has in particular the language teacher and the textbook writer for his benefit. For the language teacher, for the textbook writer also, we have a lot of insights in Tolkappiyam. Look at one or two examples. Here is one example I quote. When an object is identified by its zonary clause and where prevails uncertainty as to its gender, it must be referred to by the plural number. You see a figure coming at a distance, you do not understand whether this figure is a male or a female, you do not understand in which case, which pronoun should you use. Can you use he or she? Which you use? Tolkappia says you need to use the plural pronoun, and not, if you are not able to identify the sex of the person coming at a distance, use the plural pronoun. This is exactly the technique that has been used in all the dictionaries in English and elsewhere. When an object is identified by its generic clause and where prevails uncertainty as to its gender, it must be referred to by the plural number. Here is another nurpa for a trader in particular. If you are a businessman, you have nurpas also. All these things come under discourse analysis. We have a lot of insights into the discourse analysis. I give one or two examples. This is one example I got. If one has to say it is but unavailable when a certain commodity is asked for, one must do so by pointing to something else available. You are a businessman, you are a shop owner, a customer comes and asks for a particular product and that product is not available in your shop. You shouldn't say it's not available in your shop. Instead, you must say, sir, this is available, this is something else is available. You must, this is the way a trader must deal with his customers. If one has to say it is but unavailable when a certain commodity is asked for, one must do so by pointing to something else available. Is it right? Yes, we have lots of such examples in Tolkappia, sir. It's over? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can submit.
So we have a lot of such, and the next is cultural linguistics. We have two more branches of linguistics. This is applied linguistics. Next is cultural linguistics. Under cultural linguistics, we have at least 5 large sections in Tolkappiyam, Tolkappiyam Poroliyal. Here he speaks about the cultural dimensions of human language, how human life can be divided into Aham and Puram, how human life is inextricably related to the nature, etc. Much more than the division of human life into Aham and Puram, Tolkappiyam makes a very, very important distinction. That is, he talks about Uyardhanai and Agrinai. All human beings, Tolkappiyam brings under one single category. All of you belong to Uyardhanai. All of you are human beings, irrespective of what color you are and what your race you are, what language you have yours is. Irrespective, all human beings are one. All human beings are Uyardhanai and all non-human beings are Agni. This is how Tolkappiyam makes a distinction. And this is later Tirukkural takes into account. He speaks about Pirapokkum Ella Uyirkum. Tirukkural says Pirapokkum Ella Uyirkum. Tirukkural doesn't say Pirapokkum Ella Manidargalakkum. No, Pirapokkum Ella Uyirkum. Tiruvallur talks about all created beings on the earth. All created beings on the earth are equal in terms of the ecological balance. The world has a space not only for you, but also to the snake, to the beetle, to every other, to the crocodile, to everything. Every created being has a space, and every created being has to be treated on an equal footing. That is why the Vallur says, Pirapokkum Ella Uyirkum. And where does he take it from? Where does Tiruvallur take it from? He takes it from Tolkappiyam. Tolkappiyam makes a very significant statement. Inbam என்பது எல்லா உயிர்க்கும் தானமர்ந்து வரும் மேவற்று ஆகும். This sexual enjoyment, this sexual pleasure, don't think is confined only to the human beings. This is one pleasure that is shared by all living beings on the earth. Here, not only here, but everywhere, Tolkappiyam talks about எல்லா உயிர்க்கும், not எல்லா மனிதர்களுக்கும். No, எல்லா உயிர்க்கும். இன்பம் என்பது எல்லா உயிர்க்கும் தானமர்ந்து வரும் மேவற்றாகும். In several of such places, Tolkappiyam talks about the cultural, linguistic. All these things can be grouped under what is today described as cultural linguistics. And finally, we have literary linguistics. Under literary linguistics, we have very significant insights in Tolkappiyam makes very significant insights into things like what is literary usage? What is language? How would you describe language? If you read the Nurpas in Tolgapi, you will see that several of these several of the statements made by people like Edward Sapir, Bloomfield, etc. read like restatements of what Tolgapi has said. Look at this, literary usage is what draws on a blend of idealism and worldly realism. What is literary usage? How would you define literature? நாடக வழக்கினும் உலகியல் வழக்கினும் பாடல் சான்ற புலனறி வழக்கம். Literary usage is what draws on a blend of idealism and worldly realism. What does Bloomfield say? Bloomfield says language is not what you write on a sheet of paper. Language is what exists in the tongues of the people. This is the most important statement of Bloomfield, and Tolgapi makes the same statement in an identical way 225 centuries ago before this Bloomfield. Look at this. Usage is what is in work and use among the literate, from whom issue events of popular speech. Usage being the word of the literate, poetry by norm should draw on usage. In all these things, we have several such insights which can be described under literary linguistics, and so Tolgapi has to be looked at from the modern perspective, modern point of view of that too, the 20th century point of view of it is literary, it is theoretical linguistics, it is applied linguistics, it is cultural linguistics, it is literary linguistics. In all these things, in all these respects, Tolgapi stands tall as the Himalayas, that is capable of guiding and shaping multivalent linguistic scholarship among the languages of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for this very interesting talk. May I now request Professor Panda to honor Professor Murugan. Please give a round of applause, please. The questions and any discussions can be taken later after all the three papers. Yes, yes. Yeah, if time permits. Yes, the next on the. Okay, after all the papers, sir. Next, we have Professor Vijay Kumar Jain, the director of Bhogilal Leherchand Institute of Indology in Delhi. With a rich academic background, he earned his PhD in Pali from Banaras Hindu University and holds multiple degrees in Buddhist and Jain philosophy. His career spans various esteemed positions, including director at Central Sanskrit University, Lucknow, and dean at Rashtriya Samskrita Samsthan, Lucknow. Professor Jain has authored 8 books, edited 28 and published 117 research papers. His extensive administrative experience includes membership in several academic councils and boards, contributing significantly to the fields of Pali, Prakrit and Buddhist philosophy. His contributions have been recognized with numerous awards, including the prestigious Shrutaratna and Acharya Samantabhadra Samman. He has participated in over 200 national and international seminars and has been a prominent figure in promoting Sanskrit, Jain and Buddhist studies through various lectures and webinars. His leadership in organizing seminars and workshops further highlights his commitment to advancing these fields. Professor Jain continues to inspire and mentor scholars bridging traditional and modern academia with his profound knowledge and dedication. Sir, please. He'll be talking on the various dimensions of Prakrit language and Indian knowledge system. Sir, please.
Thank you, madam. Namah Sabhayai Sabhapatibhyascha. First of all, I would like to thank the Bharati Bhasha Sansthan. They have brought together various classical language, especially of Indian culture, on the platform aiming at unity in diversity and enjoy of peoples the nectar of each other's language. Keep organizing such events in the future as well. My paper's topic is various dimensions of Prakrit language, literature and Indian knowledge system. Prakrit, one of the most ancient language, once enjoyed the excellent status of being the prime and the most popular vehicles of communication of our nation. It was the language used by Tirthankar, empires, thinkers and poets. In the vast ocean of the Prakrit literature, one finds a unique, precious literary wealth and real cultural history of India and Indian knowledge system. One can also obtain from this literature an authentic account of the progress of various arts and science, Indriya and Atindriya Gyan of the land. Prakrit fulfilled all the norms of classical languages. Number one, high antiquity of its early text, recorded history over period of 1500 to 20,000 years, a body of ancient literature text which is considered a valuable heritage by generation of speakers. The literary tradition be original and not borrowed from another speech community. Next page. Important of Prakrit. Usko, acha. Yes. Prakrit was not only Mahavira's and Buddha's mother tongue, but also of groups of common folk scattered over a broad area. It was for this reason that Mahavir and Buddha used Prakrit in their teaching for the upliftment of the culture of people. By using Prakrit as the medium of their teaching, they waved the flag of revolution in the diversified area of the society of their times. Since Prakrit already assumed such an importance as a form of folk language in early times, earned the status of a state language during Ashoka time, and this fame continued for hundreds of years. Apart from the inscription of Ashoka, king of different parts also used Prakrit for their seals and inscription. In the 700 years from 300 BC to 400 AD, about 2,000 inscriptions were written in Prakrit. All this material is useful not only for the development of significance of Prakrit alone, but is also a valuable document for the history of Indian culture. Prakrit literature not only satisfies the interest of the common man, but also his desire for knowledge. Apart from Prakrit work on poetry, narratives, the Jain canon and philosophy, there are innumerable secular writing in Prakrit on grammar, meters, mathematics, astrology and music and other subjects as well. This kind of literature contains various new insight with regard to the knowledge and wisdom of Indian literature. The Surpanyati, the fifth text of Upang Agam, deal with the astronomy, and the Chandpanyati, the seventh text of Upang Agam, describe the astrology of Indian tradition. Vivaha Parinyati is another Prakrit work which deal with astrology. The Tiloy Parnati, Gomat Sar and other many Prakrit texts are considered essential for the history of Indian mathematics. The Pai Lachi Nammala is representative work of the lexicography. The Angvijja Prakrit work is famous for secular science and other subjects. Furthermore, the significance of Prakrit poetry is evidently the fact that all the Acharya who are famous as literary critics in India have given example from Prakrit Gatha in their work in order to illustrate their definition of poetry. The Prakrit Pengalam and Alankara Pradeep are closely related with Indian poetics. Not only this secular view of life in ancient India is depicted in Prakrit literature, which is of great value to the social and cultural history of India. Various dimensions of Prakrit language. Prakrit language, thus we see that medieval Indian Aryan languages are found in many forms. These languages are Prakrit of Shwetambar Jain Agam, Saurasani Prakrit of Digambar Jain Agam text, Prakrit of religious and secular tales of Jain, Prakrit of various forms used in Sanskrit drama, Maharashtrian Prakrit of Muktak poems, Paisachi Prakrit of Brihat Katha, Prakrit of Ashok inscription, Niya Prakrit of Dhammapad mentioned in Kharoshti script, etc. are lying scattered. All those are generally called Prakrit. All those Prakrit grammarians have given them different names. Sanskrit playwrights and scholars have also displayed various forms of these Prakrit. In fact, due to Prakrit dialect no longer being written languages, there was great difficulty in determining the correct form of the dialect. It was only after reading the scattered Prakrit literature in the various forms that grammarians started composing their sutras. The result was that the analysis of Prakrit dialect by grammarians remained very vague and incomplete. By reading these works of Prakrit grammar, it is known that by analyzing which text these rules have been composed and what was the actual nature of the Prakrit of Ashoghosh play, Dhammapad written in Kharoshti script and Shwetambar Jain Agam written Ardhamagdi, etc. It is true that in the 18th century, the later writers of the Prakrit literature like Ram, Pani, Pad, etc. have presented their works on the basis of Prakrit grammar, but such work are worth counting only on fingers. कुछ मैं एक दो पैरा छोड़ दे रहा हूं क्योंकि टाइम शार्ट होगी लास्ट में. Second para, there are two opinions regarding Prakrit language. According to one view, Prakrit is a language that proceeds Sanskrit, and according to another view, Prakrit originates from Sanskrit. Same page. Yes, no. Second para. According to the first view, Prakriti Swabhayam Siddham Prakritam, Nami Sadhu, a critic of Kavya-Alankar written by Rudraj, has considered the natural speech activity prevalent among the general public and devoid of grammatical rules, leaving aside the refined language of the educated as the basic foundation of the Prakrit language. Prakriti Sakal Jagat Jeevitam ityadi etc. The 8th century poet Vakpatiraj called Prakrit language as the common man's language and accepted the development of all language from it. Sayalo Imambaya Vasanti Ittova Neti Vacho, meaning all languages originate from the Prakrit and are derived from this, just as the water of all rivers enter the sea and after coming out of the sea it transforms into rivers. Rajsekhar, 19th century, in his Bal Ramayana has considered Prakrit as the origin of Sanskrit, Yadayoni Kil Sanskritam. Pandit Chandradhar Sarma Guleri, while doing a comparative study of Prakrit language and Chandas in his book Purani Hindi, has written, Chandas is the language developed from primitive Prakrit of the common people of the pre-Rigved period. Later on, due to being bound by rules, the flow of secular Sanskrit is unobstructed, while the flow of Prakrit continued without any obstruction, which led to the development of Abhransh language, and from the Abhransh modern language like Braj, Hindi, Maithili, Magadhi, Bhojpuri, Bengali, Udiya, Bundeli, etc. The general nature of Prakrit language has always been changing. It has been influenced by geographical condition. In the Natya Shastra of India, the 7 types of Prakrit listed as Magadhi, Avantija, Prachya, Sauraseni, Ardhamagdi, Vailika, Dakshinatya only indicate the wetness of these language. This means that the language should be Prakrit natural and used by the common people. It is Prakrit, it is the friendly to Sanskrit, which is called Sanskrit. Panini has named Vedic literature as Chandas and the speech of common people as Bhasa. Lord Buddha gave importance to the common languages and encouraged Sakya Munishut and termed the use of Chandas as Dukkat. In this also the difference between the two languages is proved. The Jain scholar Namishadu of 11th century AD, while commenting on Rudrat poetry, highlighted the specialty of Prakrit and Sanskrit. We do not have sufficient means to know what was the form of the common man's language before Buddha and Mahavira, but from their time till the century of the Christian era, the religious narratives, charity, hymns, stotra, folk tales, poems, drama, sattak, grammar, chanda, dictionary and economics, musicology, shastra, other classical literature composed in various fields of Prakrit literature are very useful from the point of view of Indian history and literature. Various dimensions of Prakrit literature. Sanskrit was the language of the well-educated, where Prakrit being the language of the common man could be understood by children, old people, women and illiterate from the 5th century before Christ to the present time. The compilation and revision of Jain Agam literature continued therefore from the 2nd century of the Christian era till the 7th century, 16th century. This literature was enriched by writing Niyukti, Bhas, Churni, commentary on it. Many secular and religious expectations were later included in this literature. Many important texts related to narrative literature were written from the 4th century to the 17th century. The period of 11th, 12th century was especially the period of development of the literature. At the time, there was the rule of Chalukya in Gujarat, Parmar in Malwa, and Guhilit in the Chauhan king Rajasthan, and these kings had a special affection towards Jainism. The result was that cities like Andhilipur, Pattan, Kambhat and Bahraich, Gujarat, Bhimal, Jalalpur, Chittor, Rajasthan and Ujjain, Gwalior and Dhara in Malwa become the center of the Jain Sravanaj. From the 1st century of the 7th century, Prakrit poetry full of love and romance was composed. This literature was mostly written by non-Jain scholar. Muktak poetry has been especially of Prakrit literature, and a scholar like Pandit Anandavardhan of Sanskrit poetics have given the first credit of composition of Muktak to Prakrit instant of Sanskrit. This interesting composition based on love and romance started with the recent Gatha Saptati. Later, when South India became the center of literary trends, the scholar like Ferler Deshwasi, Sri Kant and Ram Panipad etc. enriched the Prakrit literature with their compositions. From the 1st century of the Christian era to the 17th century, there has been a trend of writing stage play in the literature. Men of high class, first queen of the king, servant of the ministers, etc., speak in Sanskrit, and women, etc. Only Prakrit was used in comedy literature like Karpur Manjari, etc. This proves that Prakrit was used extensively in the acting of face for the entertainment of the audience. Following the example of Sanskrit grammar, prosody and dictionaries started being written in Prakrit as well. This literature was created from the 6th century of this Christian era to the 10th century. It seemed that Prakrit grammar were written even before Barruchi, but they are not available. Anandavardhan, Dhananjay, Rajak, Mammat, along with discussing Prakrit languages, eminent scholar of poetics like Hemchandra Vishwanath presented many interesting examples from Prakrit poetic text of explain the area. Apart from in these sample composition, last conclusion, two page, yes. Apart from this important text, were also written in Prakrit on word science, political science, Sringar, Nimitta Shastra, Anga Vidya, astrology, gemology, musicology, etc. Most of these have become secret. Thus, in account of the history of 2500 years has been presented here. In this long period, Prakrit language had to go through many phases, Paisachi, Magdhi, Ardhamagdhi, etc. Modern Prakrit poetry, Professor Uday Chand Jain, Acharya Sunil Sagarji, Muni Punya Vijay Sagarji, Muni Jain Muni, and many other saints are writing in Prakrit. This awakening is inspired by Sanskrit Bharati and was also inspired by the encouragement of the government of India. Up to 5 years ago, a scholar was honored by the President. Again, a ray of hope also emerged from the new education policy. Last one. The specialty of Prakrit is that it contains reference to the 4 human goals, dharma, artha, kama and moksha. It has a good description of all the ras, sant ras, sringar ras, has ras, vir ras, etc. Ancient inscriptions are in Prakrit languages. The Hathi Gufa of inscription naming India is in Prakrit. The भारतवर्ष सभी प्रथम जो भारतवर्ष का शिलालेख मिलता है वो हमारे हाथी गुफा अभिलेख में ही मिलता है. इस तरह से मैंने विस्तार से प्रतिपादन करने का प्रयास किया है और समय का ध्यान रखते हुए आपके अनुशासन का. अंत में मैं एक शब्द जरूर कहना चाहूँगा कि the best wishes to all of you who have received the status of classical language from the government of India, and these who have not received it but waiting it. This is your true love and the real Indian culture. I have full faith that you will definitely convey the message to the government of India that Pali and Prakrit are the heritage of India and culture. It should be given classical status and development all around. Thank you.
Thank you for this interesting paper, sir. Yeah. Professor Murugan, sir. Yeah, you can ask one. Sir. Sir, just a sec. You can take the mic, sir.
Thank you for your nice presentation. It's Tolkappiyam or Tirukural or Ved or any other text, which all are our heritage text. But as per your presentation, Paninian grammar is based on not spoken language. In whole Paninian grammar, there is no word for non-spoken language. Everywhere there is pratyaya bhashayam nityam, as Professor Jain has also quoted. Bhasha means vyaktayam vachi. When we speak something, that is known as bhasha. Okay? So whole Paninian grammar is based on bhasha. No use of Sanskrit word, first. Second, before that, there is a nirukt. Nirukt is a first text of semantic understanding. Okay? Before that, there is a Pratisad tradition. And before that, there is a Upanishad, then Vedic literature, and in Vedic literature, there is all frames of linguistic analysis. Chatvari vak parimita padani tani vidur brahmana ye manishina. And in Rigved itself, Rishi says, what I have done, that is not new. Idam nama rishibhya purvajebhya purvebhya patkritbhya. Before Rigved, there is a long tradition of understanding and long tradition of linguistic expression. So we say it is anadi parampara, because we cannot decide a fixed date. This is one aspect. Other aspect, I am quoting Valmiki Ramayana. Valmiki says when Sita was in Lanka and Hanuman reached there and he was on the tree, Hanuman sees that Ravan is coming often and speaks in Sanskrit. He says, I will be presenting myself before Sita for the first time. He says, Yadi vacham pradasyami dvijatiriv sanskritam ravanam manyamana mam Sita bhita bhavishyati. If I present before myself in front of Sita and speak in language, Sita will understand that it is Ravan in disguise. So whole tradition is saying that it is a spoken language. How can you say that the whole Paninian grammar is based on non-spoken language? This is not seems very sound in research. Second thing, that Vedic literature itself says tasmad tasmat atmanah akasah sambhutah akasad vayu vayu ragni ragni rapah advya prithvi. All these 5 elements and other things have been manifested by the same truth. In Yajurved, all 5 sense organs, mind, everything have been explained. And Bahusyam Prajayaya, all are the manifestation of the same truth. So all have same right, equal right. Our culture is not man-centric culture. Our culture is nature-centric culture, and we all share the same thing. So why are focused totally to segregate Tamil from other Indian culture and our cultural tradition? Thank you. has only 200 maximum years. How can you analyze everything on the basis of English person or European person? They first understood Sanskrit, they understood English language, and then developed linguistics. So how this linguistics can be the ground of the analysis of all Indian languages?
My answer is, I am talking about, I am not talking about Daniel, William Jones or Bloomfield or other people. I am talking about linguistics as a scientific discipline. Linguistics, Tolkapia has developed linguistics as a scientific discipline. On the other hand, in the Upanishads, in the Rig Veda, in the other things, we have a total, unacceptable, unscientific blend of superstitions and reality. You cannot separate, but please, I will complete, sir. Please allow me to complete, Professor. Yeah.
Werner Heisenberg, the father of quantum theory, John A. Wheeler, a quantum physicist, Niels Bohr, Robert Oppenheimer, even Einstein, they studied Upanishad to understand the nature of consciousness, and they build up quantum physics. How can you say this is superstition? This is purely non-academic.
What kind of knowledge is it to say that Sanskrit is a divine language? What kind of science is this? What kind of knowledge is this?
No says it is divine language.
Yeah, I will talk to Professor alone. I will talk to Professor alone.
It's not divine.
So, you are totally talking about a system that is beyond science.
Excuse me, I am chairing this session, so I request you not to raise the controversy. You know, so many things are there, and the world is full of knowledge. We inherit knowledge from many sources. He has presented a paper on Tolkappiyam. What is there in Tolkappiyam?
Yeah.
How the scientific linguistics is there in Tolkappiyam, he presented. We should not connect it with all our religious, all our all knowledges.
Mr. President, with all humility, he has stated that Upanistic and Vedic system is superstition.
No.
This is to be taken into
No.
Yeah.
No, this is not correct. It is not. This is not.
Sir,
This is not based on the superstition.
I said this is not scientific.
No, it is not based on the superstition. We cannot say that. This is our heritage.
This is unscientific.
But thing is that the different heritage is there.
Yeah.
So we should not raise the controversy between the things. Now we try.
Then he is saying it is unscientific.
Yeah.
No, that is not correct. It is not
unscientific to the last letter of that word.
But now we try to combine all the languages in one fold. We call it the Bharatiya Bhasha Parivar. So, because of that, I beg excuse all of the scholars, particularly Professor Jha, and I also sincere thanks to Professor Murugan. We may differ in the different themes or different opinions, but we respect his contribution to the field. He is a great scholar. I thank from all of us because he is leaving now. His train is there at 2 o'clock. Thanks you.
The last word I must tell you that of the 1600 words listed in Panini's Ashtadhyayi regarding etymology, 1800 words are not there in any Sanskrit language, including the Vedas. He doesn't know that. We have gone through all those things. Those words are not there in the Sanskrit text.
No, sir, please excuse me. So now, yes, now we will go to the third paper. It is on Pali language.
Before that, thank you all. Before that, may I please request Professor Panda to felicitate Professor Jain. Next. Next we have Professor Baidyanath Lap, who is the Vice Chancellor of Sanchi University of Buddhist Indic Studies, Sanchi, Madhya Pradesh. With a distinguished career spanning over 3 decades, he has held prominent positions such as Vice Chancellor of Nava Nalanda Mahavira and Central Institute of Buddhist Studies, and served as a member of both the Indian Council of Historical Research and the Indian Council of Philosophical Research. Professor Lap has been instrumental in the development of Buddhist studies and has chaired the Pali Development Board since 2019. He served in the Department of Buddhist Studies at the University of Jammu for 32 years, culminating as the Dean of the Faculty of Arts. Professor Lap has authored 26 books and over 100 research articles published internationally. His contributions have earned him numerous awards, including the Karnashri Sammana and Peace Ambassador Award. Fluent in multiple languages, including English, Hindi, Pali, he has represented India at various international conferences. Professor Lap's extensive experience and dedication to Buddhist studies make him a respected leader and a scholar in his field. Today, we have Professor Lap talking on significance of Pali in understanding of Indology. Sir, please.
Respected Chairperson, Professor Panda, my very old friend, Professor Vijay Kumar Jain, Professor Ramnath Jha, and all scholars sitting in the off the dais in this hall. Let me admit at the outset that this is not a research paper. This is like an introductory paper showing the significance of Pali in the understanding of Indology. Let me start. Indology stands for the learning and understanding of Bharatiya Vidya in all possible aspects, covering fields like society, social beliefs and religious beliefs, customs, art, philosophy, dharma, which in narrow sense we call religion, culture, economy, environment, and so on. Bharat, being one of the oldest cultures, starts with the Vedas, Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, Smritis, Mahakavyas, etc. Bharat has witnessed theistic as well as atheistic currents of thought, and the study cannot be completed without comprehension of both sides. Normally, Veda-based thought current is considered as theistic, and Buddhist, Jain and Charvak are considered as atheistic philosophies. As just said, Buddhism and Jainism belong to the latter category, popularly known as Shama philosophy or tradition. So far as Buddhism is concerned, it was propounded by the Buddha 624-554 BCE, who attained enlightenment at the age of 35 and continued to spread his teachings and thoughts for the next 45 years till his great departure at the age of 80 years at Kushinagar. At that time, oral tradition was very much prevalent in our country, and currents of thoughts were transferred from gurus to disciples through listening and memorizing Shruti Smriti method for centuries. It is evident from the tradition of Vedas and their following literatures: Buddhist, Pali Buddhist Sanskrit, Jain Prakrit, and other literatures. Dedication of the teachers and their disciples in carrying forward their concerned literatures was exemplary, which could come to us intact. So far as the Buddha's teachings are concerned, they were delivered by the Buddha, and in some cases even by his prominent disciples at different places and different times. While staying in the monasteries, the sincere and wise disciples developed a system of discussing and memorizing those teachings word by word, which proved highly beneficial in preserving the same. Answering a query from Ananda about his successor and after his Mahaprabhu's demise, the Buddha denied anyone as a person, but clearly said that whatever he has preached as Vinaya and Dhamma would be their guide in the time to come. Yo cha dhammang cha vinayang cha maya desitang so mama achena tumhagang sattha. Responding to another question in which language the teachings were to be collected and compiled, whether Sanskrit, that is Chandas, or the language used by the Buddha, he forbade the former and opted Magadhi, approved by and recognized by the majority of scholars as Pali. Anujanami bhikkhave sakaya nirutya buddha vachanam paryapunitum. Commonly and traditionally believed by the Buddha's followers, Pali was the language in which 500 oldest, ablest minds of Arhat grade assembled at the Sattaparni Guha, Rajgir, modern Rajgir, identified with modern Rajgir, to collect, authenticate and compile the Buddha's original words. This assembly of monks is formally known as the First Buddhist Council. There were various methods and ways to classify the Buddha's words, but the most popular classification is accepted as Tripitak or Tipitak in Pali, Vinay Pitak, Sutta and Abhidhamma Pitak. It won't be out of place to mention here that some other classifications are such as 2 Vinaya and Dhamma, as 5 Nikaya Vasen Panchvidhan, in which out of the 5 Nikayas, the first 4 are Digha Nikaya, Madhyam Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya and Anguttara Nikaya, whereas the 5th one, that is Khudak Nikaya, includes includes the 15 texts of Khudak Nikaya as well as 5 texts of Vinay Pitak and other Abhidhamma Pitak, etc. Yet another classification is seen as Navang Sasana, like Sutta, Geya, Vyakaran, Gatha, Udan, Itibuttak, Jatak, Abhut Dhamma and Vedalla. I won't go into the details of these. Nidan Katha of Samanta Pasadika mentions Angavasena Navavidhang Sabbameva Hidang Suttang, Suttange, etc. I'm just skipping over. As the Buddha's words, another is 84,000 Dhamma Khandhas or Dharma Skandhas in Sanskrit. However, this classification is also from the viewpoint of enumeration of the Buddha's discourses. As the Buddha's words, Tipitak, collected, compiled and recited by the participating monks in the First Buddhist Council, remained in the oral form only. There arose controversy regarding 10 rules of Vinaya, and the Second Buddhist Council was convened at Balukaram, Vaishali, modern Vaishali, in Bihar to resolve the issue. Though the combined committee of the representatives of both sides unanimously declared that unlawful acts of the Vaishalian monks, and all the participating monks, numbering 700, recited the whole Tripitak again to maintain its purity and sanctity, then the erring monks did not concede and brought a split in the Sangha. Thus, the breakaway group claimed to have its following by 10,000 in number and were thus called Mahasanghikas. It is interesting to note that they adopted Sanskrit instead of Pali for composing their texts. This split did not stop, and by the time of Emperor Ashoka, 3rd century BCE, the number of sects and subsects rose up to 18. it became very difficult to identify which popular sect was the genuine one. Ultimately, the Third Buddhist Council was convened at Ashokaram Monastery, Patliputra, under the chairmanship of Moggaliputta Tissa. Representatives from all sects were invited to discuss the controversy and resolve the issue. After many months of discussion, it was found that Theravada Buddhism, having its literature in Pali, was the genuine. One of the most significant outcomes of this council was that, on the inspiration and instruction of Moggaliputta, Ashoka dispatched missionaries to spread the Buddha's message not only to different parts of Bharat, but even to other countries like Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, West Asia, etc. Here, Sri Lanka deserves a special mention in the sense that the island country not only accepted Buddhism and declared it as its state religion, rather it kept the tradition of Pali with utmost care and respect. However, the most interesting fact remained with the journey of Pali was in oral tradition only. Ultimately, during the reign of island Emperor Vattagamani Abhaya, in 1st century BCE, Tipitaka got its physical shape. That is, it was brought into written form. Ever since then, a large number of books have been written in Pali and in Bharat, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, Taiwan, etc. on different aspects of Buddhism, such as general history of the countries or regions concerned, religious rites and rituals, environment, social conditions, economy, political setup, etc. These literatures highlight our history as well. In the post-Buddha times, ever since the 1st century CE, number of texts were written in Pali, summarily called post-Pitak or Anupitak literature, Anupitak Sahitya, or extra-canonical Pitakatar Sahitya, Pali literature. They cover various aspects of literature as well as different other areas. For instance, pre-Buddha Ghosh Anupitak literature, roughly 100 to 400 CE, includes these important texts like Netti Pakan, Petakopadesh, and Milinda Panya. These texts are majorly dedicated to exposition of the Tipitaka in their philosophical perspective. Milinda Panya is written in the catechetical manner in which there is scholastic debate of a very high standard between Buddhist scholar Acharya Nagasena and Indo-Greek king Milinda, identified with Menander of Sagal, modern Sialkot, Pakistan. This book may be treated as the first book of Bauddha Nyaya, although it formally developed at a much later stage. Buddha Ghosh, 4th, 5th century CE, is one of the most distinguished names in the history of entire Pali literature. He wrote commentaries, Arthakatha, Sanskrit Arthakatha, on majority of texts of Pali Tipitaka. Other exponents of commentarial literature were Buddha Datta, Dhammapal, Anuruddha, etc. These commentators gave very enlarged and minute expositions of the text of Pali Tipitaka, highlighting detailed meaning of each and every word, its derivative and applied meaning, etc. The tradition of these commentators continued even after and is still continuing. In this category, we can include commentaries and sub-commentaries, Arthakatha Anutika of Singlish monk Sariputta and his disciples, literature from Myanmar, Thailand, etc. Apart from these literatures, there is a very important and distinct type of Pali literature known as Vans, chronicle literature, which highlights the history of Buddhism in Bharat and abroad, especially in Sri Lanka. Texts like Deepvans, Mahavans, Chullavans, Buddha Ghosupatti, Saddhamma Sangaha, Mahabodhivans, sorry. Phupavans, Pattanagalu Viharvans, Dathavans, Jinkal Malini or Malini, Shakesh Dhatuvans, Nalad Dhatuvans, Sandesh Katha, Gandhavans, Sangeetivans, Sasanvans, Deep, etc. Pali scholars pen down on other types of literature as well, which cover poetics, grammar, dictionary, meter, prosody, and documentation of records, etc. So far as our country is concerned, there are very few people who write on Pali literature now. In this context, Mahabhuddhavattu by late Bharat Singh Upadhyay in 5 or 6 volumes need a special mention. It is indeed an epic, Mahakavya, on the biography of the Buddha. Scanty writings in Pali come up now and then, among which names of late Professor Mahesh Tiwari, Professor Sangsen. I am fortunate to be their direct disciples in Delhi University, Professor Bhagchand Jain, Angraj Chaudhary, Professor Vijay Kumar Jain, who is sitting sharing the dais with me, Professor Ram Nakshatra Prasad, Bimlendra Kumar, Ramesh Prasad, Mahesh Devkar, etc. may be mentioned, covering various areas of Pali and Buddhism. Dr. Prafulla Gadpal is a young man, is coming out with very practical and useful books on Pali grammar and composition. The author of this writer has also taken up Pali grammar and composition to seek possibility of reviving it as a spoken language. I have written just last year on Pali Sadda Bodho. It is just like primer of Pali, pictorial things. And now I'm continuing with some further aspects of Pali composition and grammar. Coming to the contribution of Pali to the enhancement of knowledge of Indology, I would like to draw a sketch keeping in view the unnecessary expression or expansion of the presentation. As I have already mentioned previously, Pali literature provides us with plenty of information to understand Bharatiya Vidya, which we prefer to term as Indology. So let us begin with literature. Pali was a Bharatiya language spoken at the time of the Buddha and even after, commonly in the northern Bharat, corresponding to modern Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, southern part of Haryana also, maybe with the slight variations, as it also identified as one of the modern forms of practice. As Professor Vijay Jain was telling, that in a broader sense, Pali is also included or considered as one of the types of Prakrit. So Prakrit in a very broader sense covers Pali as well. As it was a lingua franca of the areas and regions, the Buddha traveled throughout his missionary life. He preferred to opt for the same to converse and convey his message to the maximum number of listeners, and needless to repeat, it became one of the major reasons for the fast growing popularity and expansion of Buddhism. Pali covered a vast area of human life and its various aspects. The whole Triptaka is full of information on our country. Nikayas and the following literature in Pali speaks a lot of it. Philosophy. Buddhist philosophy is grouped among atheistic philosophy, others being Jain and Charvak. Buddhism apparently denied the existence of Almighty Creator God and emphatically established that a person acts in a particular way, right or wrong, and so has to reap. There is nothing like Dharmaraj, who examines his acts after his death and punishes with hell or rewards with heaven. Though the Buddha talks of Yama, Kuber, Agni, Indra, etc., but denies their role in determining man's fate after death. The Buddha establishes the fate according to one's own actions. He does not see the role of any external or unseen force behind it. He accepts the theory of Kamma Patsandhi, that is the deeds and rebirth, but reveals that it goes on like unending chains until all sorts of tanha, that's Sanskrit Trishna, gets fully exhausted. So like Lord Krishna, he also advocates for desireless actions, anasakta karma yoga. The theory of Patit Samupad, Sanskrit Pratitya Samutpad, is a revolutionary concept in Buddhism which establishes the relation between cause and effect. Accordingly, nothing in this world occurs without reasons. In place of moksha, the Buddha talks of nibbana, that Sanskrit nirvana, which too can be attained even during the present life, provided one gets rid of all sorts of desire and aspirations. The Buddha avoids the two extremes of leading life, that is extreme penance in the name of self-purification and extreme pleasure, neglecting self-purification, and instead prescribes a middle path having noble eightfold path, Ariyo Atthangiko Maggo or Arya Ashtangik Marg. For him, suffering is not imposed on us by any unseen force, but because of our own deeds, good or bad, and can surely be eradicated by following the noble eightfold path. A non-believer in the existence of any external and immovable soul, the Buddha identifies these three characteristics of phenomena: sabbe sankhara anicca, sabbe sankhara dukkha, sabbe dhamma anatta. The concept of bodhisattva is something unique in Buddhist philosophy, which talks about a person with divinity striving for attainment of Buddhahood. It got further elaboration in Mahayana Buddhism. There it has been shown that he is well capable to attain Buddhahood, but mainly because of his seeing suffering beings all around, he takes a vow not to attain the same until he liberates all suffering beings. Social condition. The Buddha advocates for all beings equal on the basis of birth. It is one's action, good or bad, that upgrades or degrades one's status. Na jaccha vaslo hoti, na jaccha hoti brahmano, kamana vaslo hoti, kamana hoti brahmano. At another place, he says that a person, irrespective of his birth in a particular community, he is superior to all humans as well as deities. He recognized the dignity of labor and gave space to all in his Sangha without any social discrimination. Although initially hesitant, he was the first historical personality in our history to allow women folk to join the Sangha, among which many attained even arhathood. Social life and nations. The Buddha, through his Noble Eightfold Path, always emphasized to lead a moral life, thinking for the good fellow beings. Talking and praising the republican system of Vaishali, the Buddha said that they were law-abiding, made regular interactions and discussion regarding their nation, and developed a technique of collective wisdom. They always respected their elderly people, women, and cared for visitors from other states. In other words, they provided a sense of security to the visitors. The Buddha says that patriotism cannot be compromised with anything, and it is better to swallow a hot iron ball than to make treachery with the nation. Mode of administration. The Buddha neither favored monarchical system of governance, nor favored republican system. He had close connection with both sorts of governments. So he simply advocated that a ruler should always treat his subject as his own offsprings, and the latter as father to the ruler. Economy. Right livelihood speaks a lot about the justified way of earning. A person, whether a government employee or businessman, should follow the right path and should neither adopt deceitful nor coercive manner to earn for his livelihood and enhance his income. Taking the ancient path of earning and expenditure, the Buddha teaches for a humanistic touch. In expending his income, he should be sensitive to the need of others and try to help with the best of intention. environment. Though environmental crisis is a major problem of the modern times, our ancients were quite conscious about the protection of forest, fruit-yielding fruits, fruit-yielding trees, green harvests, etc. This was the region the Buddha introduced the rainy season retreat, Vassavas or Sanskrit Varshavas, for monks and nuns. The Buddha praises the green forest of Rajgriha and Uruvela, modern Bodh Gaya, as the most suitable for meditation. He forbade his disciples from plucking branches of green tree unnecessarily, as it causes hurt to environmental balance. So all these things were there, and a number of points are there which can be discussed on the study and the significance and contribution of Pali, which has enhanced. Once again, I would like just one thing I would like to mention, that as Professor Ramnath Jha was discussing, there were things were there in our culture, and Buddha was not the first person in India or the first person to introduce everything anew. But the whole tradition that he carried on, he rather discovered new facts. There is one very popular saying, Ekam Satyam Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. He discovered the truth in his own way, and that revolutionized the then mind of the people, and it attracted the people.